fact, I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Uh,
Hmm.
this membership masterminds, although it is, I always say this at the beginning because I want to be very clear, especially for the people that are new. The people that are not new are quite aware of this already. This is not a prop fuel event. I want to be clear about that. This is not meant for prop fuel clients only. This is an industry event. Of course, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Prop Fuel. Uh, I put a lot of stock into that, and that's how I see the world. But this is not an event to talk about prop fuel. Not to, don't get me wrong. I like it when you talk about prop fuel, but that's not what this event is designed for. This is not designed to sell you prop fuel or to talk about prop fuel. It may come up because it is something that we're involved in the industry in with working with membership and marketing. And certainly with member engagement and being as broad a topic as it is. All right. Having said that, what I tend to do is talk too much. Like I did, well, last time we did this, what we did is we went around the horn and we had everybody introduce themselves, their organization, and some of the ways they're dealing with the stuff. And whatever the topic was last month, I think it was maybe student engagement. Anybody, what did we talk about last month? Anyone remember?
I think it was student
What?
engagement.
Yeah. Yeah, student engagement was we did a couple of things here at Prop Fuel related to student engagement. So that's why I was getting confused. But the whole session took everybody kind of doing their thing. I'd like to try something different today. Rather than doing individual introductions, what I'd really like to do is if you when you speak, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, but we're going to jump right into the content. And so the content for today, before we go any further into the content, though, Membership Masterminds, it's a group of membership, and I'm sure some marketing people as well, maybe some executive directors here with a focus on talking about membership. It's designed to get you guys talking to each other. We now have 600 plus members. This thing, I guess people are hearing about this now, which is kind of cool to see that many people all in one place. We could have done this in collaborate with ASAE, but what we found is there's a lot of people that aren't members of ASAE, and we wanted them involved in the conversation as well. So this certainly isn't to compete with ASAE. There's no money involved in this thing. Um, what we also discovered is the community in and of itself in LinkedIn isn't highly, how do I put it? It's not I don't think the technology, the LinkedIn community technology does a good job of fostering engagement in the community. Feel free to jump in. It's just, for 600 people, you'd expect a lot more interaction than what we're seeing. And I think it's because of the community. So this particular event is very likely going to be the greatest value we see out of membership masterminds. All right. Having said that, the topic today is around general engagement. Very, very broad topic. But we came up with some questions that I think might be a good starting point for our discussion. What I really like to do, though, is if you guys, anybody here has something that you're working on or something that you want to discuss, that's a better place to start than things that we suggested. Here's some, so go ahead and throw that into chat. And if you'd like to introduce yourself over chat, that'd be cool too. I love so many people showing the videos. If you're comfortable, turn on your video. It makes it feel like we're actually all people. So what strategies have you found most effective in engaging new members in their first year? That's one topic. How do you leverage technology to improve engagement? What tools or platforms have been game changers for you? What metrics or indicators that I always love the data one, but what metrics or indicators do you track to measure member engagement? And how do you use this data to refine your strategy? What role does member generated content? I know it plays a role in a lot of your organizations. Harry, I always go back to your birthday message that you got from your the 80s, I think it was an 80 some odd year old guy. Is that right? Was he 90s? How old was he, Carrie? Do you remember?
He was 93.
Well, it's tell you what, can we start with that in a minute if somebody else doesn't jump in? But give me 1 second, Carrie. I want you to tell that story about the engagement and this 93-year-old guy that left you a voicemail. But member-generated content is another one. And then finally, how are you tailoring your communications to meet the diverse needs of different members? So diversity and age and career and so on. So having said that, feel free to jump in or put it in chat. Is there a topic that you want to start with? Thank you, Amanda. All ears. Ah, yes. If you haven't seen Amanda's, I really want to give Amanda a plug here. The member engagement study, we've been involved in that with her for the past 2 years. And the only reason I say involved with her is because we sponsor it. And so we put our name in it and then we help spread the word. It is phenomenal. And then the other thing that Amanda does really well is, oh boy, Amanda, where is it? Where's my book? It's Amanda's amazing book, which I don't know, where is it, Amanda? There it is, Elevating Engagement. Thanks for holding it up. I always like holding up my copy of it. Phenomenal, phenomenal book. All right. Anybody have some topics that you want to discuss other than what's on here on the screen? All right, while you're thinking about it, Carrie, will you tell the group about that story with the 93-year-old man?
Sure, we have a campaign that goes out, a birthday campaign, like most people do, I think, to members on the members actually based on their date of birth on their birthday. And it's so for background, we're a military organization, a nonprofit that supports the Air Force and the Space Force. I was really nervous actually to launch this campaign because our members are so buttoned up often and take themselves very seriously. But it's actually been one of our most popular campaigns, I think mainly because we're not asking for anything in it. It's kind of, we do a little birthday poem this year is the theme. But anyways, so I got a voicemail, which I'm so glad I didn't answer my phone, from a member that got it on I'm pretty sure it was his 93rd birthday, and it was the cutest little voicemail. And he just said, hello, 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 Carrie. I'm calling to thank you for your email. He didn't want to actually respond. That was how he chose to engage, was to pull my phone number off of it. But he said that he was just doing so well and he wanted to thank us for recognizing him on his birthday, and then proceeded to give me an update that he's still taking ballroom dancing lessons and having a great day. So I saved that voicemail because it was transcribed and I got the recording in my email, and we just share that often to reinforce why these types of personal engagements are still valuable to our members.
Carrie, if while we're in this, I'm gonna see if I can find that, because I have that recording that you sent me on my computer somewhere. I would just love to. It's 30 seconds. I'd love to play that for the group. It's adorable. It is the kind of, it actually brings in a lot of emotion to anybody that hears it to the table. And in fact, that's probably another topic we could talk about, is how do you draw emotion from your members and make this a little more of an emotional connection rather than a transactional connection. But having said that, thank you very much, Kai, for making a request, and Katrin for asking about metrics. If there's anything else you'd like to discuss, throw it in here, but we're going to start with those two. Robson, thank you. Robson just gave me the link to a webinar we did with Amanda on her book, Elevating Engagement. If you're interested in that, feel free to watch that webinar. All right. I put the first two questions into the chat. How do you leverage technology? And this by first two, I mean first two by request. How do you leverage technology to improve engagement? Was that, Kai, was that the one you were interested in?
I am interested in number 2, which feels like it's almost the one after number 3, which is metrics, because it's sort of like we have metrics that we've defined for engagement, but now we don't know what to do with them when we say, okay, so this person has a low engagement score.
So number 2 being, how do you leverage technology? Was that the number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how do you leverage technology? I put this in the chat, and if you want to read the full question. How do you leverage technology to improve engagement? What tools or platforms have been game changers for your association? Now remember, I didn't say you can't mention prop fuel. I just said this isn't about prop fuel. So who would like to help Kai with that question?
Well, hi everybody, Candace, Property Management Association based out of DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So I'll tell you, engagement is the long game. I've been working on navigating what kind of tools that we needed for, I don't know, probably about 2, if not 3 years, because I quickly learned that I can go to the board all day long and say, this is what I'm going to spend it. This is how I'm going to cover it. But that really wasn't good enough. I needed to support the why. And I'm not plugging Prop Fuel, but Prop Fuel was the first platform of technology that I was able to convince our association's board to jump on, and not only the platform, but also the SMS feature. And my argument and the way that it's helped so much is that I was able to collect the data in small chunks, as opposed to, I don't know, I'm not picking on any platforms, but instead of sending, like a 50-page survey monkey out, or some random, constant contact type survey, I was able to every now and again, after a quick event or in the middle of the week, just send out a one hitter, a one question type thing, get that information, compile it all to the side. And then as I was able to go through the year, I was able to identify what our members wanted. So now we're about to sign on with another platform that's going to turn our website into a mobile app. Because for our association, our members said, we're always on the go. We love the new AMS that you guys have. We love that you are actually, it feels more modern, more now, but now we can't use your website because we want to pick up our phone and do it, and it doesn't do that. So by using Prop Fuel, I was able to get that information easily to then put it together and get the app, which we're going to be partnering with Clouder, actually. So I'm looking forward to that. That's for me.
I think ASAE uses Clouder as well, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
They do.
How else is using, I mean, it's almost a silly question, leveraging technology to improve engagement. I mean, unless you're literally having coffee with every member or calling them, in which case you're still using a telephone. You're probably using, uh, you can't stand these, but voicemail drops. People love them. Who's using voicemail drops? Yeah. People, like every time I read an article and collaborate, or not an article, post and collaborate, and somebody mentions voicemail drops, people are like, oh, I'm dying to do those. All right, come on. Who else is using technology for something that you want to talk about to engage your members? Yes. What do you got, Rick?
So IABC Philadelphia uses Nation Builder, which was a platform that was originally designed for political campaigns, but we adapted it for our association membership. The first thing it did is it allowed us to save a lot of money because we were able to eliminate a lot of these other platforms that we were using, SurveyMonkey and Constant Contact and everything else. We're able to integrate everything into one platform. So we host our website through them. We do our newsletter through there. We can send social media posts from there. We can send out emails. The other side of it is people, when they register for programs, they volunteer for something, it creates a record in the database, and then we can tag all of those individuals either automatically depending on what form they fill out, or we can go in manually and group them by tags. We can also group them by the programs that they attend, and we can track how many events they attend. So this allows us to reach out to folks about particular topics or particular issues. And the nice thing is that we don't have to rely on all these different platforms, which is great for our membership because we're a small organization. We don't have a lot of volunteers, but it allows a very small group of people, really just 2 of us, to maintain all of that I just discussed.
So I want to just kind of piggyback on that too, because like the big takeaway that I took from what you said, Rick, is everything in one place. And that, man, that's essential for me. When I think of anything leveraging technology, it's a full-time job. It's so, we're a small association, a staff of 5. And I am so super fortunate that I get to, work from home. I'll come into the office once, which is it's a long haul, but for the rest of those 4 weeks, then I have the ability to genuinely, like, I can wake up and I can jump right in there and immediately start grabbing all of the data that I can get from whatever form of technology that I use. And I'm in ASAE and another little small group that I've created, or not, I didn't create, but another group of individuals. And we were all kind of talking about this at the MMC and MMC Tech conference. Such a long name. We were all kind of collaborating on any technology that we've used that failed, and kind of diving in to see why it failed. And what we came to the conclusion is not so much that it failed, it's just that none of us were putting the amount of time that we needed to put into it to actually make it worth our while. So we engaged our members only to essentially have failed them, because we didn't come back with the information that we gathered from them to turn it into something.
Right. And the nice thing about Nation Builder is we're only tapping probably about a third of the capabilities, because it was designed for political platform. It can take in donations. So if you're a 501c3 that relies on donations, it's very robust. But we don't use donations. All of our revenue either comes from our membership costs or for our program registrations. But the dashboard in here actually is very robust, and it can show contributions over time. It can show the total number of supporters, the total donors, your active membership, your supporters buy-ins, our opt-ins. So there's so many things that you could use. So, I'm just exploring it every day, trying to see how can we leverage another piece of it to do what we're trying to do.
I like that, Dave, you put the RASA newsletters in there. That's another nugget of technology that we are signing on to here in January, for the sole purpose that we also identified that while we have 3 core member types, within those individual member types, you have separate personas. So by using RASA, while we have one set dashboard, I can have 10 different newsletters that take me a quarter of the time that I already use to generate the one newsletter that we're already doing a week. So that's a really good platform too.
And what I like about Rasa, and by the way, I'm in full disclosure, I'm friends with all these guys, even the Higher Logic team, and I've got things I love and things I don't love about all these platforms. But one of the things I think is really cool about Rasa is it will learn as people click on things, it learns the things they're interested in. Like, they were using AI before AI was a thing, long before ChatGPT became popular. Rasa was probably further along with AI than any other system in the association space. BettyBot has gotten some attention here, which they always seem to do. And again, Rob Barnes is their CEO and a very good friend of mine. I mean, I could tell you about the thing that excites me about BettyBot is, if you're not familiar with BettyBot, they take the way Rob describes it is, it takes all of your content and turns it into the smartest member you have. It's the librarian for all of your content. So it's basically a resource for your members to talk to the smartest member you have by asking questions, and it captures all this information from your journals and your webinars and any content you have, and it becomes like the guru of your association. And it's all within your gate, so that it's not exposed to the outside. It can be a member benefit and so on. In fact, PropFuel and BettyBot are working together so that you send a question in PropFuel through email or on the website now, but you send it through email, and based on how they answer, it fires off a prompt to the BettyBot asking it a question for you, and just kind of initiates the conversation simply based on how you answer a question in PropFuel. So there's some really cool engagement stuff. And what I like about that is it gets people from their email onto your website and engaging with your website. Anybody else here using BettyBot? But there's people that are interested in it. I'm happy, if you don't know the gang over there, I'm happy to make an introduction. And full disclosure, my son was an intern over there. He's in college, he's a software developer. He was an intern for them for the past 2 summers. Keep an eye out for anybody named Will over there. I made a list. If you scroll up a little, I made a list of other platforms. Nobody's really talking about communities anymore. Is that just because everybody either has one or is sick of talking about it? Like, anybody having great success with their community?
I'll say one of the reasons that I was looking forward to Clouder aside from the app is that they also offer the community feature. I like any association, I'm sure everybody probably deals with it. Everybody has like those cliques, right? The people who've been doing it for a really long time and they have their friends and that's who they're going to hang out with, no matter how hard I try to shove a new member into that group, right? But I've noticed, especially since the pandemic and our association went and then maintained doing our committees and councils virtually, that people felt comfortable continuing those conversations. So I was like, oh yeah, we got to get a community. I'm sending out these surveys. People are saying, yes, they like the concept of this. This could be worthwhile. And then gosh, last year, maybe a year and a half ago, Clouder turned their desktop only communities into being able to have this same networking ability via an app. So you get a little bit of like the Facebook and the Instagram vibe that people are already actively using. So I don't know. I've got really high hopes. I'm basing this off of ample number of surveys that have been sent out. And I think one of our I won't say sister associations, but another association near us that we often will, interact with, they had a community and had nothing but good things to say. So speculation.
Anybody struggling with their community?
I can jump in real quick, Dave. I'm not an association, but I do a lot with Callus AE and
Scott,
Callus.
can you introduce yourself? Tell people who you are and what you do.
Sorry about that. Scott Oser with Scott Oser Associates. We help associations with quite a bit of sales, some telemarketing, and also digital marketing, as well as membership, mostly in the direct marketing kind of space. And what I was trying to say is that I'm out in California now, out in San Diego, and I do a lot with Callus AE. And this reminds me of ASAE like years ago, where one of the tasks of one of the task force is to get more people to participate in My Callus AE, which is their online community. They just can't get people to do it. And Callus AE is a pretty big association, and you get like a post or two a week, and then you get no replies to the people that post. It's just kind of stuff that's just floating out there. And I don't know if people are interested or what's going on, but they are really struggling with trying to get people to actually participate.
Scott, what I think is there has to be someone to drive it, right? And because whenever I think of any association or no, not association, any community that I've been a part in when I've been on the member side of an association, is that we're sometimes relying on the member to get the conversation, but they don't know what they're doing. And I mean that in a nice way, right? So I think that, like, for me, I think of like my role is whenever I have a committee or a council meeting, I get that conversation going, and my goal is we're not going to have there will be no downtime. There will always be conversation, no no white noise. Let's keep it going. And then once people get that comfortability, they're like, oh, we can talk, we can say things, and then they just kind of jump in and they keep it going. But you have to first put the training wheels on, take it for a spin down a rocky hill until they fall off, and then people won't stop talking at that point. My opinion.
Hi, my name is Alexis. I'm with the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals. So we're based out of Missouri, but I'm in North Carolina. I think we're seeing a little bit of the same thing too, that there's a struggle in just either there has to be someone dedicated to drive that conversation. And we're kind of a mix between a trade and individual membership style of association. But what we're really finding is they want the conversation and may just not interact with the website enough to know this is a resource for me to get access to other professionals doing the same work. So we're still trying to work on driving the conversation and driving people to that site to make sure that they're engaging in the conversation as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, Dave, the thing we're facing or dealing with is trying to get people to attend live events. So, as a small organization, in the past, we normally did about eight events a year. So, just the non-summer months. This year, we went up to 18 events. We've done a master class. We've done, all kinds of virtual programs. We scheduled a live event for September with a speaker that's addressed our organization twice before. We were able to get 75 to 80 attendees to her virtual events. We scheduled her for September for a live event. We had 6 people registered and we had to cancel. And then just this past week, we had the association's former international chair as a speaker to come in and talk about the role that communicators have in helping their leaders prepare for dealing with addressing social issues. So if you're a publicly traded company or even a private company, what are the risks of being out there and talking about social issues, DEI, politics, whatever. Similar situation. We had 24 registrations. We had 9 people show up online. We had only like 5 or 6 people show up live. Still a great event, great program. We videotape it. We're going to share it to everybody who registered. But trying to get people out to live events has been a huge challenge for us. So anybody's got some experience in this, I'd love to hear how they're doing it.
I belong to Entrepreneurs Organization. It's 18,000 worldwide, but in Boston, my chapter, I'm on the board. I was the learning chair for the past few years. And yeah, like we're totally focused on numbers, right? Like get people butts and seats. And it's not a good event unless you get butts and seats.
Right.
That's debatable, I guess, but it's still the way we measure things is like, ooh, this one got, we had about 100 people. You can invite guests. So like if we get 60 people at an event, we're psyched. Like that's a great number. We have a relentless relentless number of emails.
Well, we send out about 3 for each event, and then we're on social media on like 5 or 6 different social media platforms. I post on about 6 or 7 LinkedIn groups. I post on our International Association's website. There are some PR marketing like Facebook pages in our area. I post there as well. So we get attendees to our virtual programs from all over Canada, from across the United States. We even have people dial in from Australia and the UK. So for the virtual events, we're doing fine. And the nice thing about the virtual events is they're, very profitable, especially if we're not paying a speaker fee, it goes right to our bottom line. So from a profit or from a revenue standpoint, virtual is very good for us. The live events, we've taken a beating because we've paid money for the venue. We probably have paid a speaker. This last event, we had a streaming service there, so we paid somebody to do that. So, we took a beating on that one, and I just can't figure out what we need to do to drive people in for live events.
Well, Rick, it's funny. You say you do 3 emails. We probably do 3 SMS. We send messages out through PropFuel to people in the group. And everything's a little smarter. We're not going to hit people if they've already replied one way or the other, yes or no. We probably have over the course of the year, people are probably getting a dozen emails about a particular event. Some of them are in a newsletter. Some of them are dedicated about that event. And at every live event, we're pushing the next one with QR codes. So like, that's what I mean by relentless. And you still hear from people saying, oh, I didn't know about it.
Right. We also promote in our emails. There's there's a description of the upcoming event, but then there's also a listing of the next like 5 or 6 events with the date, the time, the title, and they all link back to our website. So it's not a problem with people knowing about it. It's just, again, it's just trying to get them to a live venue.
We found
Yes.
changing up some of our email marketing content around our live events was helpful in sort of 2024 so far. So I'm with the American College of Rheumatology. And so we have one giant yearly event that is all of sort of the education and the research from that past year presented in one place. We do not have trouble getting people to attend that one, but we had smaller events throughout the year that we were having trouble getting people to attend. And so last year we experimented. One of our events is the Winter Rheumatology Symposium. And it was supposed to be, as it was originally intended, a place to say, this is an event that's sort of halfway between when the big event is and sort of the middle of the year. So if somebody's got an exciting research paper that wasn't ready for the big event, they could present it at the symposium. That was kind of supposed to be the goal. But we found our people who said that they were going were really interested in the more social aspect of that meeting. They wanted that networking touch point. And they liked that it was always in the same location because our big meeting travels from coast to coast, year to year. And so we changed our marketing from where rheumatology meets, which is our sort of standard convergence marketing, to where rheumatology skis. And we made it more social, and we leaned into, okay, you're telling us you came to this because you wanted to do a little bit of research and a lot of skiing. Let's talk about the skiing. That's the thing that you said that you wanted. And our numbers improved last year. So that was kind of exciting.
Did you say skiing?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
you're actually out skiing?
Yeah. And the way that the meeting is structured is all of the sessions are later in the day. So it was always kind of like this. It was like the open secret, right? That everybody went and skied all morning and then they would go to the education sessions that were in the afternoon. And so we were like, well, if that's why you're going, if you're going because it's a fun ski holiday that you can also sort of write off as a business trip, then let's talk about the skiing part of it. Let's talk about the aspect that you're interested in, and then we'll pull you into the meeting content as well.
Unfortunately, Southern New Jersey and the city of Philadelphia is very flat, so there's no
Not great. Yeah.
That's brilliant. What was the ASAE event they always did in Colorado Springs? What was that called? Scott knows.
Great ideas.
Yes, great ideas. They stopped doing that a few years ago, but I remember, Scott, you may remember this too. We used to have a group of people that always meet up prior to that event to, in this fact, where I got to know Rob Barnes from Betty and Tom Morrison from Metal Treating Institute and a whole bunch of cool people. We get a big group of people to meet up and go skiing before that event. And it was phenomenal ideation. And it always ended up with drinks at the end. And, you know, that's when you get your craziest ideas, like starting a bar, starting a band. All right. I'm actually kind of curious about personalization, but that wasn't a topic I heard any of you guys talk about, and it wasn't our original list. So I want to stick with the topics. But if you do want to get into personalization, put a note in there. Let's go on to the metrics. What metrics? I mean, Rick, talking about events, pure butts and seats, right? Or people attending is a metric that we track. The metric of registrations to showing up, like what's the ratio of people register to show up, is another metric, or let me phrase that, show to register ratio.
Right.
What percentage of people actually show up is another one for webinars. What metrics, specifically around engagement, are you looking at?
We haven't really said any beyond attendance and revenue, to be honest. Because
revenue. So revenue to events. Yeah.
Yeah, revenue is great. I mean, you know, we in many cases, we have zero cost other than what we're paying for the software we use for our website and social media. And we, extrapolate that across 12 months. But, for events, if we're not paying a speaker, it's basically 100% or more profit, we generate $1,000 for an event that cost us nothing. That's pretty good.
We have metrics and email, of course. Everybody looks at open rates and click-through rates. Metrics in terms. How about engagement scoring? Somebody mentioned engagement scoring. Who was that?
That might have been me. I'm happy to run through what we do.
Yeah,
I threw it in the chat also. So we look at our engagement score is made up of 7 values. The first one is length of membership. So over the past 10 years, how many years have you been a member? Renewal percentage over the last 5 years. So in the last 5 years, how many times has this person renewed on time as opposed to the day after their membership expires? We have a lot of trouble with that one. And then we look at volunteer work, and we split that out into micro volunteering, like work groups, committee level volunteering, and then we look at chairs and board of director officer kind of roles. We look at how many events someone has attended, and then we look at specifically how many convergences someone attended, which is that big annual meeting thing. So we split those two out because we find sometimes if we're not on your coast, you won't come to convergence, but you may do a bunch of other education stuff across the year that's like virtual.
I love the focus on retention. I mean, that's the magic. That's the metric, right? Like that's the metric that matters for this group.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also the new member, like growth, right? How many new members are you getting? I think new member retention is a phenomenal metric, don't you think, Amanda? In fact, Amanda's book spends a huge amount of energy focused on new member retention.
Yeah, because you can't work on engaging any of the other members unless you engage them as new members first. And one of the things that I found in my own research talking with 477 members is the ones that are super engaged, their new member experiences set them on that path to being engaged. So there's really strong correlation with that kind of thing. So if you're engaging new members and they're super excited and they're finding community and all of those good things, they're going to go on to make their membership really lovely for themselves. And if they have a bad new member experience, it's just going to be bumpy all the way along. So yeah, I'm pretty hot on the whole new member engagement thing.
Amanda, something the ASAE did that I thought was pretty cool. And of course, I was working very closely with them and their prop fuel efforts at the time was they did a new member onboarding, but they didn't do it just for new members. So we called it more of a member engagement, a renewal campaign. And so they utilized the same one for the new members as they did for existing members because they had never asked these questions to their 40,000 existing members. So questions like, instead of saying, why did you join the first check-in, they would ask questions like, what are you hoping to achieve in your career this year? And, somebody might say, well, I want to get my CAE, which would take them down a different journey than I want to meet more people and grow in my career, so they did. My point with that was they brought not just new members through this process, but all members by taking them through a full year long series of questions and responses and so on.
Who did that, Dave?
That was ASAE.
We did something similar to that as well just recently. Just put in, it was a similar situation where we had not asked our current members why they were here. So we asked that question and found that a lot of our members said they really came for career opportunities, which is something that we had never truly highlighted as a member benefit, although we have a careers page. So it kind of made us rethink, okay, what we're thinking is the highest ranked member benefit is really something different. So we changed our strategy a little bit just to highlight based on what the feedback from our prop fuel campaign, how can we make it a bigger member benefit for the people that really want it. So we've had some good experience from that too.
So just to piggyback on that a little bit, you said there was a large percentage of people that wanted more career development activity. One of the things I think is really cool about the trend we're seeing in personalization is there's always going to be some people that just don't care about that. They're comfortable with that. They have no interest in that. And so that's where this concept of personalization becomes important, because even though you might have 60% of people that are interested in that, which is a big chunk of people, you still have 40% of people that don't care about that. And so you can talk to, apparently I like that comment I just made. So you can, that's the beauty of personalization. I think we're just hitting this era where we can use technology for better personalization. And that's something that gets me really, really excited. Something we're totally focused on in my company right now. Alexis,
Can I
just
throw in
so
something?
you know,
Sorry.
go ahead, Jeremy. Wait, hold on.
Sorry,
I'm
don't-
sorry. Alexis, just one thing. When you speak, there's a little static in your mic. It's okay. I just want you to know for the future, check out something's up with your mic. That's all. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So Jeremy Naylor, I'm the manager of new member outreach at the Ohio State Bar Association. So what's interesting, and when we're talking about new member engagement, so our new members can be students, they could be new admittees, or they could be, jumping on maybe 2 or 3 years into their law career. So what I find it challenging is always trying to make sure that everyone on all the different levels are getting the same quality of engagement experience so that they don't, have a bad, and I think too, the on the flip side of that too, for us is the challenge of differentiating us from all the other bar associations that are available and are also reaching out to, in particular, students. If you have local bars, metro bars, and that kind of stuff, they're all going after the same students with a free membership to get them on board, to get them into pretty much, we have a lot of similar benefits for them. So it's always it's a very careful balance for us. So what we try to do is, reach out to students, get them a membership, make sure they realize what benefits are specific to us, that they'll get from that, and then grow with them, kind of the next step of like, okay, now as a new admittee, what do they need? And then focus on that. And almost it's kind of like we re-engage with them as a new member again, and because they're kind of in a new level, so kind of working with them in that sense and focusing them on like the new lawyer training that they're going to need in their first 2 years that we can offer to them, and then from there on, hope that they get there. So that's kind of the big challenge for us, is being able to communicate with all those different channels or all those different audiences and making sure that they're all getting the kind of the same experience but at different levels.
Jeremy, is there such thing as like student chapters of the association or the bars or something like that, where you can reach out to them?
We haven't really had a lot of success just having like a regular student committee. What we do encourage the students to get involved in is our young lawyer section, because those are the basically the members that they're going to become first, and may relate with those young members as they're kind of going through their first couple of years as a practicing attorney. So we really try to focus to get them in on there. Plus, a lot of the content that's with the young lawyer section is like a lot of the special presentations they'll do during their meetings and that kind of stuff are focused on professional development for younger lawyers. So we figured that's going to resonate with the students as well. We've worked with, and I just don't have the bandwidth. We have 9 law schools in Ohio that we interact with all those students. And so I would love to have like a student rep at each school be like a spokesperson for the state bar. But just trying to get something off the ground is just not, I just haven't quite got to that point yet. So, but what we try to do is we try to at least, our communities and sections really are interested in doing outreach with law students. So we're always trying to connect our practicing attorneys with those law students by taking them to campuses and having them speak to them about how the bar has helped them, specifically the state bar, in terms of our resources in that. So it's kind of another way we kind of try to connect our more seasoned attorneys with the new ones.
Well, I've actually been on the boards of two trade associations. One is IABC, which I mentioned in the chat. The other one is the Public Relations Society of America. And serving on the local level, I put together a committee of folks who were former student chapter members of this association. It's called PRSSA, the Public Relations Student Society of America. And they have their own national leadership. They have their chapters are all around the country. But some of the things that I did at a national level were to fund people to go to the conferences, setting up formal mentoring programs that lasted a full year instead of just like a single meeting where you meet somebody and you chat with them for 15 minutes or an hour and learn about their background. It doesn't really do much. We actually match people up for year-long experiences. I invited people to, students to our events at low cost or no cost. We funded people go to national conferences. We set up mentoring with students once they graduated from school. We also set up discounted programs for students to transition into the professional membership ranks into the association. I don't know if the bar does anything like that, but whereas somebody might pay $400 as a professional to join the association, as a student it only costs them like $70 to join. And for that first year, the cost is sometimes a factor. They're in debt up to their kazoo with student loans, so it's even $70 might be a lot, So the other thing is also getting involved in volunteer opportunities with the association. So I don't know if there's student opportunities, whilst they're still in law school, to participate in the bar association as a volunteer, just get them plugged in. So just some ideas. I'm happy to chat with you, exchange some ideas if you're interested.
So I was having a conversation with somebody about students and engaging them, and the topic came up of email. And I know I've got two kids in college and one just out of college, and they don't look at email the way I do. Like
some of them don't look at email at all. They only look at text.
Yeah, I inject email into my veins, and they don't do that. Like I have to tell them, hey, I sent you an email. Will you look at it? Will you open it this week sometime? So like they text too, but they're communicating through so actually Robson's on our team. He's a marketing coordinator on our team. He graduated a couple of years ago from college. Robson, I'm curious, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, what do you see as a good means of communication for college students?
Would have to say those like text updates, to be honest, because they're always on their phone, and I have learned to use email a lot more because I'm working. I think it's just more of a transition. You just kind of have to learn to do it. But if you want to get them now and immediately, shoot them a text.
So SMS is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to opt in. Like you need
Yeah.
students to opt in, and generally you can't do that over SMS. That's got to happen either in person which doesn't really happen, or actually I don't even think you can do it in person. It has to happen digitally somehow though, which means maybe you could do that in a student registration section, I think, but email is the only other way I know of to get opt-ins. All right, we've got 10 minutes left. Does anybody have, and Amanda, I'm curious if you have any topics that you think we're missing in talking about this, super broad topic of how to do engagement better. Having said that, take 30 seconds before you respond, Amanda. Is there anyone here that has a topic that they're kind of itching to get some input on?
I know I joined late. Hi, everyone. You might have already talked about this.
Go ahead, Wendy.
How
That's all right.
about pulse surveys? How do you use pulse surveys and how do you get people to just answer them, quickly answer them?
You want to define a pulse survey for us?
A pulse survey is a survey that our respondents can answer super quickly, like maximum 5-6 questions. So the promise is this will just take you a second, like 2 minutes or less. And then really it's just you just get a quick pulse on how do you feel about your membership? Are you going to renew? What are the programs you most value? And have them just quickly select multiple choice on that.
Any input? Of course,
Couple
I'm
of
dying
events.
to say some things, but I'm gonna try to hold back a little. Go ahead, Candace.
Absolutely. At a couple of our events, um, uh, so my role at any event is I walk, I engage, I talk to everybody. I am their funnel of information and the face, if you will. So I always have a clipboard with a QR code that I will walk up to them, and as I'm having a conversation, I'm like, you know what? Can you just scan? Everybody has a phone on them, right? Hey, can you scan my QR code and just answer 2 super quick questions for me? And because I've already engaged them and we had such a good conversation for whatever random topic I picked, to get them to scan it's easy. And then of course they scanned it, it went right back to it. So the next day or whatever, I can then collect all that information, and then I'm able to navigate whatever continued conversation I want to have with them.
That sounds great if you're in person.
Yeah.
This is just part of our renewal process. We're kind
Oh,
of getting that pulse on how they're feeling before we enter the renewal period, which is the last 90 days of the year for most of them.
I can't do it anymore. Wendy, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And this is knowing, if you don't know, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Prop Fuel. And so like this is just baked into me. Surveys, generally speaking, I think they can be helpful as an aggregate system. Amanda uses surveys to create her benchmarking reports. Phenomenal for that purpose. Surveys are for you. Conversations, a dialogue, can be for both you and the member. And the reason that happens is because when you ask them a question and you receive input, then you can actually give them something of value centered around the input they gave you. Okay, so like, but then the only reason we want a pulse survey is because long surveys are too painful. Nobody does them. But a short survey is really still just you sucking data out of the members. There's nothing in it for them, at least not right away. Maybe there is in the longer term. And here's the other thing. It's not about the individual, generally speaking. It's about the aggregate, which is okay and still valuable. That's why I asked you to define a pulse survey, because generally speaking, the pulse survey that I subscribe to, so much so that I built a whole company around it, the pulse survey I subscribe to is the one where you ask a question, triggers a response from that individual, and now you have an engagement with that individual and you can respond to them specifically to them. You can also get the aggregate data, but around renewals, silly questions like, are you planning to renew? Like, what an easy way, super short, answered in email, easy way to start a conversation and get aggregate data about who's planning to renew and who isn't. And if they're not, what are you going to ask them next? Like, if they say no, naturally you're going to say, why not? Why aren't you renewing? And then based on how they answer that, you might take them down another journey. So like pulse surveys are really just short surveys. And surveys generally suck, and they're for the aggregate. They have their time and place. So I would suggest that you think about where and when and why you're doing something and figure out, is a pulse survey the best tool, or is there another way we should be engaging these people?
Dave, I
And I'm
agree
happy to
100%.
continue that conversation.
I agree with you 100% on that, especially if you're trying to attract volunteers. I have found through, being on the boards of 4 different association boards that, just pushing something out on a website or putting it out on social media or even bringing it up in a meeting really doesn't generate a lot of interest in volunteers. I have found that when I got on the phone and called people, and just said, hey, I'm the president of whatever. I'm interested in see if you would like to plug into the association. I had almost nobody ever tell me no. They usually will say yes. One association we were looking, like I mentioned earlier, for mentors. I recruited 100 chapter members to mentor students for a year long. And when I called them, they said, hey, I've been a member of this association for 10 years. Nobody's ever asked me to do anything. It was kind of shocked me because, here we're pushing out this request, and people are actually waiting for you to contact them to say, how can I plug in? But they don't want to actively go out there and do it themselves. But when you ask them, they're like, yeah, I'm happy to help. So, just that's effective for volunteers. That may not be effective for membership renewals, but, surveys, again, yeah, unless you're asking the right questions, it's not going to help you.
Yeah. We've been experimenting with taking the, how do I want to say this? With taking the part of the survey that feels like a survey away. And so instead of sending like an email for a pulse check that says, hey, do you have 2 minutes? Can you click here and tell me about your renewals? We're just sending an email that says, hey, I noticed you didn't renew. Is it because of this reason? And often we'll have, so like, I'm working with a bunch of people who retired before the age that we thought they would. So our bylaws say that they're not eligible for a retirement discount because they don't meet the age criteria. We saw them drop off. So reaching out to say, hey, did you not renew because you weren't eligible for a retirement discount? I just, want to get a feel for what's happening. And I got back a ton of, yes, that is exactly what happened, that now I can take to the board, that information, but also got back a lot more information than I would have if I had just said, did you not renew for A, B, C, or D reason, right? People were really, I think, surprised that there was an actual person who was responding to them when they emailed us back, that somebody would call them if they asked for a call, or that they were getting an individual response instead of just kind of like a go to SurveyMonkey and fill this out thing.
I just want to piggyback, and I only have a couple of minutes, but I want to piggyback onto that, because if there's one thing that I've learned in the, I don't know, year and a half that I've been with Prop Fuel is what they've taught me is it's how you ask it. And I didn't really necessarily realize how badly I was asking until I had another way of asking it, and then getting the responses, and it turns it into a conversation, and then like what Kai said is, if they wanted a phone call after I ask a question, and it, I wrap it up with, thank you for your feedback, would you like to continue this conversation? If they say yes, I can trigger it to go to whomever on the staff, and they can call and keep that conversation going, and people are so appreciative. Really, really good tool.
Thanks, Candace. All right. It's a 1:59. Any last comments before we wrap? Thank you guys so much for joining me here. We'll have another one next month. If there's a topic you'd like, shoot me an email. We're always trying to come up with the next best topic for the next month. Thanks for joining us today. Please reach out if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about. Wendy, email is dave@propfuel.com. Thank you for asking. Talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Ray. Good to see you, Amanda. Thanks for coming.